upsets, which is a common term used in college sports, especially college football. But as common as the usage of the term is, it's not common to see upsets week in and week out. But when it happens, everyone around the nation is put on notice. One of the most memorable upsets that pops into my head every once in a while is the App State versus Michigan game. And this was when App State was a FCS school, which fairly has any chance at beating an FBS school, especially a national powerhouse like Michigan. This feat that they completed was done in the big house in front of 100,000 fans, and it was at the beginning of the season, which deflated any hopes Michigan had at a national championship run. Not only did App State got the victory, they also got paid to play that game, because FCS schools are scheduled basically for a tune-up for the FBS teams. And this is called the money game on the FCS side of things. And at this time, FCS universities were getting something like $200K up to like $400K for these money games. And it's easy for the FBS teams to overlook these games while looking on to their next opponent, which is most likely a FBS team. And sometimes the FCS schools can sneak a win every once in a while, but that seldomly happens. And in this video, I'm going to be covering potential upsets for HBCU schools. Now, some of these games are near impossible for some of these teams to win, but just like I spoke of before, App State versus Michigan was an upset that nobody saw coming, and the possibility of that happening again this year is very slim, but it's still a possibility. And our first matchup that we're going to discuss is between Alcorn State and UAB. This game will happen on August the 29th, and it will be hosted at the home of the UAB Blazers. And the Blazers will be led by head coach Trent Dilfer. A few of you guys are familiar with Trent because he was a former NFL quarterback, and he was pretty decent at times while playing in the NFL. UAB is looking to rebound after a 4-8 season last year, and they probably have a lot of motivation to improve. And the Alcorn Braves are led by their first year coach, Mr. Cedric Thompson. Last season, Alcorn State seen a good bit of success as they finished with a 7-4 record, and their offense will be led by Tyler Macon, who transferred from Mizzou in 2022. And he has some pretty decent weapons, and they're going to lean on him to be a leader in this game versus UAB, as they're still trying to figure things out with overall team chemistry. Even though UAB is not a national powerhouse, their team has way more resources available than an Alcorn State, which makes this an upset. And a win here for the Braves will capture a lot of attention. Now moving on to our next matchup, which is between Jackson State and Louisiana Monroe, which will be hosted at Louisiana Monroe Stadium on August the 29th as well. As we know, Jackson State is led by T.C. Taylor, who took over the reins after Deion Sanders left and headed to Colorado. Deion Sanders basically appointed TC as a head coach after his departure because he felt that TC would be the best guy to replace him to keep the tradition going that he started. Jackson State finished with a 7-4 record last season, and they have a lot of talent returning. Their offense will be led by Irv Mulligan, who is a complete stud, and you can't forget about the recently transferred running back from Akron, Clyde Price. They also have a really solid receiving core that will be led by Fabian McCray, who caught 41 passes for 584 yards, and he added 4 touchdowns to go along with it. And Louisiana Monroe will be led by first-year head coach Brian Vincent, and they're trying to improve from last season, which they saw themselves go 2-10 after losing every conference game, and those 10 losses came back to back. So they're on a 10-game losing streak right now. And with a first-year head coach, T.C. Taylor and his team could take advantage of Louisiana Monroe and come out with a victory. So now we're going to shift to a team from a Power 5 conference, and we're going to be discussing the game between Alcorn State and Vanderbilt, which will be held at the Commodore Stadium on September the 7th. So Alcorn State made my list twice, but this time they're facing a better opponent, as the Vanderbilt Commodores are a member of the SEC and the worst team in maybe the best conference on the FBS level, can easily take care of many FCS schools any day. Vanderbilt is more of an academic school than a sports school, which probably holds them back on the recruiting side of things, but they're led by a very respectable coach in Coach Clark Leah. And Vanderbilt wasn't a complete pushover last year in conference play, which means it's going to be a rough day for Alcorn State if they don't bring their A game. And if they pull this one off, you can expect college football to go up in a frenzy. Now moving on to our next matchup, which features the Florida A&M Rattlers versus the Miami Hurricanes. Two teams that are very familiar with each other's players, because FAMU feeds a lot of teams in Florida when it comes to the transfer portal. FAMU is currently under new leadership as the legendary coach Willie Simmons took his talents to the FBS level, and he's currently the running backs coach for Duke University. And Willie Simmons is a guy you guys need to keep an eye on if you're interested in coach carousel type stuff, because I don't think it's going to be long until he takes over a head coaching gig on the FBS level. But currently FAMU has Coach James Cozier, and he's been blessed with a pretty good roster. You have the former Miami Hurricane himself, Bryson Martin, who was actually a walk-on for the Hurricanes, and he decided to bring his talents to FAMU, and he could be leading the charge for years to come. And to win this game against the Hurricanes, the Rattlers are going to need a monumental game from Kelvin Dean, because the Hurricanes will bring a stingy defense that will be led by linebacker Francisco Mayoga, who had 82 tackles last season, along with 7.5 sacks. And you can't forget that this team is led by Mario Cristobal, an offensive guru on the college football level. And even though the Rattlers are a very good team, they're going to have a tough hill to climb to overcome the Miami Hurricanes. And last but not least, our final matchup will feature FAMU once again, as they will be facing the Troy Trojans on September the 21st. This game will not be as challenging as the Miami Hurricane game for the FAMU guys, but this is still a tall task, as the Troy Trojans are one of the best teams in the Sun Belt year in and year out, and features one of the most dynamic offenses you will see out of the Sun Belt Conference. Now, they have a first-year coach at the helm as well, in Gerard Parker. Now, if FAMU wants to win this game, they're going to have a shootout with these dudes, because I'm not sure if they have enough defensive firepower to stop this explosive offense. But they have a better chance at winning this game than the Hurricane game that we spoke of before. And with all of these games being on the road, it makes it tougher to pull off an upset. But anything's possible in college football, and I would like to see at least one or two of these upsets happen this year, just so a little more light could be shined on the HBCUs across the nation. So that wraps up all of the potential upsets that I think that could possibly happen for HBCUs. And even though some of these are a little far-fetched, they're still a possibility. Like I said before, you never know what could happen. Football is a tricky game, and sometimes teams catch other teams slipping or overlooking games as they're looking ahead at other opponents. And a lot of these teams feature first-year coaches, so there could be some butterflies there, and mistakes can happen. So the possibility grows even more when there's inexperienced guys at the helm. And I want you guys to let me know in the comment section which team has the best chance at pulling off one of these upsets. And if you're interested in more videos like this, don't forget to hit that like button, that notification bell, and subscribe to the channel.